right, guys, I think we're now live for another weekly edition, another weekly episode of NOMBERG Law Live. And as we do each Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, we bring interesting conversations with people in their areas of expertise. And I'm so pleased to have my friend Dan Joffe with us today. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Bernard. How are you? And I appreciate you inviting me on the show. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. And I thank you for having some time. And Dan and I, unfortunately, have never met in person. We've met virtually and online many, many times. We're both members of Mitch's Legal Minds and maybe even some other groups that are not coming to mind right now. But I've enjoyed the exchange of professional ideas and thoughts and things that just have helped my practice that Dan has also been part of over the last couple of years. So I appreciate that part of our friendship, and I'm looking forward to this conversation today.
And me as well. And I've just said, I hope you come up to Toronto. I don't know, maybe I'm your first Canadian guest on your show. So if that is, I'll hold that as a plaque.
Well, you may be. I'd have to go back and look, but I think you are. But I'm so glad that we've got some time today. Dan, before we jump into the many ventures that you have and all the fun that you have with your family, tell folks a little bit about yourself and some background, and then we'll just jump in.
Sure. Dan Joffe, I'm born, raised in Toronto, feels like 1,000 years ago, but I did an MBA law degree in the mid 90s in Toronto, a joint program. And since then I've actually more led, not from a legal perspective, but from an entrepreneurial business perspective. And I've worked in a number of business-oriented, internet-related ventures, really since I graduated law school. And only a couple of years ago did I even open up a law practice, really looking at it from a business opportunity, that there was an unserved segment of the market that I thought we can add some significant value to clients and also build a good business. And that's what we've done.
And Dan, do you come from a family of lawyers or a family of entrepreneurs, or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. My parent, I'm actually first generation Canadian. My dad was born in a Shtetl in Poland, which is a small town in Poland in the 20s. And my mother was born in a part of Poland in 1942, and they were immigrants to Canada, and Canada opened their arms up to immigrants like my parents, thank God, and they settled in Toronto. My dad was a blue-collar electrician, made an honest living, built a good business. My mom was, and thankfully still is, still around, and she built a very successful real estate. She's a real estate agent, but very, very successful in what she's done. And I'm one of 4 kids. I'm the youngest, and my oldest brother, I have one lawyer. I've entrepreneurs and lawyers. Like 2 of us are lawyers, 2 are entrepreneurs. And so it's a mixed bag of entrepreneurs and lawyers.
Very cool. I always love hearing and learning about the backstories, the people's
Sure.
past, and how they've gotten to where they are now. And I'm sure we could spend our entire session talking about your parents and coming from Poland, but we'll save that for another day. But did you get into business before you went to law school, or which preceded which?
I did. I got into business after law school. So at the time, they had this combined MBA law program in Toronto, and thankfully I was a part of that. And then when I got out of law school and this combined program, I realized I didn't want to go into working at a law firm full time. So right away I went into business. I actually started in software. I worked as a business development associate at a local software company that was actually became very successful. Not due in any part to me, frankly, but but that gave me the taste for technology and software. And since then I've had more of a technology bent to my career.
Well, has the I'm going to call it the onslaught, I can't think of a better term, of how social media has just become so central to most business persons' working lives. did that just kind of fit right in with what you like to do from a professional standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint?
Yeah, yeah, great question. And I was, ironically, late to the social media game, and just given, which is ironic because I was in the early days of the internet. I was out there. I wasn't late to knowing what was happening with the internet. And in fact, a lot of things I learned really from you, Bernard, and from Mitch Jackson and things like that in terms of leveraging social. But obviously, critical to every business right now, including my own businesses. Sure.
Well, it's during the last almost now 6 months coming on of the pandemic. It just seems like that's how business gets done.
Yeah.
It's very, the world hasn't opened back up yet, and who knows when that's going to be. But the reliance on social media is more important than it probably ever has. And I bet I'm certainly no expert in this, even though I enjoy doing social media and reading about it and learning things. I suspect we've only just scratched the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, and what can be done.
Yeah, and what's amazing is the velocity with which you can make those virtual introductions. I mean, it's an obvious thing that I'm saying. It's just with the pandemic, everyone knows what Zoom. Yeah, I remember months before the pandemic, I would say, let's have a Zoom. And there'd be a few people who wouldn't know who Zoom was. Now everyone knows what Zoom is. And now there's this acceptance of, I worked on my background, having a tree and having like now I'm worried about Zoom backgrounds and also the velocity with which you make these relationships online has accelerated exponentially, and which is just fantastic. I mean, you and I, we're not good friends, but certainly we're an acquaintance. We met online. Mitch Jackson, who's just one of the loveliest guys out there. He and I have developed a rapport offline through social media, and his son goes to USC Business School. My nephew went. So there's those connections have accelerated in this pandemic. So there's certainly really good things coming of it. I marvel at that almost every day. I think we all do.
We do, and then talk about good timing. As you're complimenting Mitch from Southern California, he's joined us as he's watching right now. So good morning, Mitch.
Good morning, Mitch.
As usual, thank you for joining in, and you're always welcome on this show. And Dan, and this is not a term that I created, but I've heard that when the word Zoom has now become a verb, you know that it has infiltrated society and it's here to stay.
Yeah. Why? And the corollary to that is when my mother, who's 80 years old, and my mother-in-law, who's like 81, when they know what Zoom is, it's crossed the chasm for sure.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about your businesses, because I know that they both involve the legal community. The various companies. I mean, you support lawyers and law firms. So let's take a couple of minutes and share about those.
Sure. So really have two businesses. One actually is a traditional law firm, and we do things in a very untraditional way. And then I have a software company. So, let me start with the software company, which is really where I spend most of my time. We have a software company that helps lawyers improve their cash flow, improve their cash collection. And we do this by, we automate with our software, the communication and collection workflow. And then we combine this with this done for you concierge service where we handhold the law firms that we work with. So you take that software, you take that concierge service that we have, and that enables law firms to dramatically improve accounts receivable collection rates. So our ideal client is a law firm billing $250, at least $300,000. A lot of clients on payment plans. And the receivable collection process is manual or haphazard. And when I ask law firms, I say, can you tell me what your accounts receivable collection rate is? Most, if I can't even, I'm thinking through in my meetings that I've had, I don't think anyone's told me, okay, Dan, I'm doing 72% or 89%. But when I say, tell me about, what happens with your clients, and there's this general feeling that they're chasing clients for money. And then in that situation, that's perfect for us. And we're able to help those law firms generate an incremental $35,000, $45,000, $75,000 of incremental cash flow due to our software.
And Dan, are you supporting Canadian-based law firms, or all of North America? Where are your clients typically?
Clients, right, they're in Ontario, but we're actually doing a very large push in the United States. We have some law firms in Illinois, in Alabama, in Florida, in California. We are actually, the word is getting out there, and we're still in a very, we're quietly expanding. The software itself happened organically, and the reason why I built it in my law firm because I had a real cash flow collection problem in my law firm. I grew my law firm with payment plans. And the reason was a client would come in and they couldn't pay me in full, and that was fine. I financed them. And what I did was I had a very manual AR collection system. It was very, very manual. I basically was using some automated follow-ups. There's email payment reminders and a lot of software. I was using those along with spreadsheets to track. But over time, as I got busier, there were just so many moving parts to keep track of. Clients were missing payments, and they'd owe me a certain amount, they'd underpay me, and then fees would change. And then my very much manual collection system just lost its effectiveness. And then what happened was I was just, it felt like I was chasing clients for money, and it took time, but it was also just stressful. I mean, it's stressful. And I remember telling my colleague at the time, I said, this is killing me. So what we needed was a dedicated cash flow collection tool, and none existed. So I went back to my network from my venture capital days and basically recruited who are now my founding partners to build out a solution over time. So this software was built in my law firm, not to leverage an opportunity. I need to fix my problem. So over time, the software went through, I think, over 500 clients. Every client had at least 2 to 7 payments. I think the initial testing, over 2,500 payments were managed. We sent over 8,000 reminders. And at any one time, we had 300 active payments. And it was really me just doing it. And over time, my time invested chasing clients for money went down, and my accounts receivable collection rates went from below 70% to over 90%. But let me just say, it was iterative. This didn't boom happen overnight. This took time.
You became an overnight sensation after 10 years.
That's right. That's right. And really, to fix a cash flow problem, you just got to do a lot of little things right, but you got to do it consistently. So
what's the name of that? What's the name of your business, Dan? I want folks to know.
LawExpand.com. The word law and the word expand.com.
Well, I'm going to make sure we put it in the comments section. Is there a website for that?
Yeah, that is it. LawExpand.com.
Okay.
And what happened was, listen, we're all in small communities. Bernard, you're in a small community. Toronto's a small community, and other law firms found out about it. And they said, "Hey, Dan, can we buy it? Can we license it?" And that's what happened organically. And one law firm, then 2 law firms, then 4, then 5, and a whole bunch of law firms. And I thought, you know what? I'd rather pivot and move to more full-time using and selling the software, which is what we're doing now.
And Dan, is it just for law firms, or can other businesses also use it?
Other businesses, I'm sure, could use it. We're trying to stay very focused on law at this point. Kind of one market. Crack that code and deliver amazing value. A lot of the, we as lawyers, I'm a licensed lawyer. One of my co-founding partners is also licensed with the Law Society. So we're held up to high ethical standards. And that I know gives a lot of comfort level, a huge comfort level to our client base. So right now we're focused on this market, but certainly over time, I'm certain other ancillary market niches will pop up for us.
I mean, I could see a dentist office or somebody who has high billing, but thank you, Mitch, for posting the website link to Law Expand. Well, what type of practice do you have with your firm? What do you all concentrate on?
Yeah, so my firm is called Next Law, and what we do is and this is really, I approach this from a business perspective. This is now 2016. We target a very underserved niche in the legal services market, which are serious traffic violations with severe penalties that include mandatory 6-month license suspensions, which mean you can't feed your family, you can't work, you can't feed your family, and even up to jail time. It's really a sliver of a niche. And our target market are low-income individuals. So we operate a really unique business model that's very different from most law firms. We focus on client acquisitions and operational systems. And what we do is we outsource the legal work to paralegals who in Ontario are licensed to go to court. I don't believe in the States they're licensed to go to court. Is that correct, Bernard?
Certainly not in Alabama. I want to say either Utah, Oregon, California has recently, one of those states out west has recently expanded the rights and the roles of paralegals. Maybe Mitch or somebody out there out west knows a little bit more, but certainly not in Alabama or in this part of the country.
So that's our model. So we really focus on one side business, a network of really the very best paralegals who just, they just do amazing work, and they do it all under my law license. And because of that model, we actually are able to service all of Ontario. So there's about 15 million people in Ontario. It's Canada's largest province.
Wow.
And fortunately, we're actually very, thankfully, we're very successful. And I'd say our success really is four factors. One, we have a very cost-effective way to acquire clients. So we have a number of ways we bring in clients. Social. My partner right now is filming a la Mitch Jackson, I think 18 or 20 videos as we speak.
Oh, good for him.
So
good for
we
y'all.
have lots of ways that we bring in clients. And then what we built proprietary software to keep leads engaged while they're making a decision on who to retain. So they'll get a charge by the police on one day. They have a court date or virtual court date now, maybe 4 to 6 weeks later. And in that time from when they hit our law office, we're sending them text message along the way. It's a text message drip campaign. And every time we send them a message, we're giving them really valuable content, really valuable information about their charges. We're educating them. And what happens is in that 4 to 6 week period, we're hitting them maybe once a week. And then as they get closer to the court date, we're hitting them more. Our frequency increases. What happens is during that period of time where we don't see them, we don't talk to them, we're building some trust. Then what happens is when they say, my goodness, I need to make a decision, I need to hire someone because my court date's coming up, we're in their phone. So what happens is we have this and we see this all the time. People will contact us all the time, and we've been building this relationship with them, and we're sending videos to them. We're doing some really cool stuff. That engine, and it's proprietary, we built that software in-house, has been a home run for us. So that's a key part of our competitive advantage. The second thing, pricing. We package everything with block fees. We don't do billing by time, which is really important for that lower income target market. We also offer payment plans because we want to keep our fees at a certain rate. We're definitely more expensive than most people in the market, but it doesn't matter. I believe we have the #1 market share in this province.
I was going to say, you set the bar high with the type of service that you're providing. Certainly.
Yeah, and that's right. And by the way, it's all about delivering the service. This is the systems and operations that enable us to allow some phenomenal service. And the key thing is that software for us. I mean, that software that with LawXpand, we're able to confidently provide that financing. We know we're getting paid, right? So we're in a COVID economy, and clients are going to be looking for payment plans. It's a given. And there's some lawyers I know, and rightfully so, they'll say to me, Dan, I'm never doing a payment plan. And that's okay, but more and more clients are going to need help with financing in COVID. And I believe there's a certain segment of the market, certainly the lower income segment of the market, that will be looking for lawyers that will offer it. And if you don't offer it, there'll be, of course, there'll be lawyers who will keep that business, but other lawyers will lose that business. But with software like ours, that's how I'm confident. I know we're going to get above a 90% collection rate. And it's a win-win because we're helping the clients and we're providing amazing service for them. So it's those 4 factors that really is our competitive advantage. And now we're expanding this model now into family law services, which is a huge opportunity in Ontario.
It would have been, I've heard so many lawyers and law firms, and there was an article that just came out this past week about the demise of the law firms and how many lawyers are losing their jobs or having to pivot and do something else. There's so many stories about that. And Dan, you and your team, and Jonathan, who's just joined us. He took a break from filming, so thank you, Jonathan. And I applaud what your firm has done. You've recognized that it's a whole new world, and as you said, it's a COVID economy, and you're able to do all of this online. It's either you thrive or you go out of business. And I'm so impressed and just love the concept of what you guys have figured out how to do it in our this time during the pandemic. And with so many people being either out of work or not doing the work that they want to do, but they're on their phones or they're online somehow, I think it's more and more important to just double and triple down for lawyers to just be there for people who need their services. And it certainly sounds like that's what you guys are doing. So I applaud that.
Yeah, and listen, I'm doing no different than you, Bernard, and I'm going to give 1,000 shout outs to Mitch Jackson, like an inspiration on every level. The videos, and when I speak to my partner John Cohen, who's on right now, and I speak to my team, I talk, about how Mitch is saying we should be doing these things, but it's true though, because right now everyone is hyper focused online, and it's an amazing opportunity, and at the same time, it's one of those like amazing win-wins. Like I love the fact. Helping our clients with these payment plans and making everything affordable. You could deliver amazing service at affordability. And that's really our niche. And there are lots of law firms who don't want to touch this lower income part of the market. And that's totally cool. It's a different business market, different business model. Yeah. We are at that higher volume business. And I think we excel at that. And I think it's wonderful. It's a win-win because our clients are most, you can't have everyone happy, but I'd say the vast majority are incredibly happy with their services. And I'm proud of that.
Well, Mitch had a good question here. How does a client first hear about and join that text thread? How do they get into the system, so to speak?
Yeah, great question, Mitch. It's through our intake. So for example, we right now do a lot of Google AdWords. And they come to our site and we say, hey, we can send a great strategy for you. Give us your name and your phone number. And that's how it starts. And the reason why we do text messaging, I mean, it's obvious. People read text, and I think it's a 98% read rate versus 20% email. Yeah. And especially in a lower income bracket, if you aren't texting clients at a lower income bracket, at least on the acquisition side of your client, you're missing a huge opportunity. And same thing with payments, and that's key as well. So when you're managing payments and you're giving payment plans, you need to keep those clients engaged, and you have to remind them with text messaging. Yeah. Very, very important.
Our clients love to communicate via text. We use one of the services where it's not only on your phone, but it's also on your desktop, and all of our assistants here in the office are able to communicate that way. And you're right, so much quicker and more of a response. But let's put all this awesome lawyer talk aside and talk about really what's your passion, and that's the Grateful Dead. And how does a Toronto-based fella who's got so many interests, how did you first get involved and start to like their music? And just tell us a little bit about that passion.
I'm guessing that I'm following your tracks, is my guess. Is that right? Are you a fan?
I know of them, obviously. I'm not quite in your level, okay. But I have several friends who have for years just wanted to convert me over. But maybe
I think you're Pearl Jam, right? I think I saw some
Pearl
stuff.
Jam is my jam. That's right.
Yeah, and I love, and Pearl Jam's awesome. Grateful. It was in law school actually. I was introduced to the Grateful Dead, and I went to a number of concerts, and then I just got hooked. And yeah, we would go, and it was just, it was in a lot of ways, it was, it was predated internet, predated social media, but that was social media. That was it, live face-to-face social media, where a bunch of us would go to, San Francisco or Los Angeles or Buffalo or New York City. And it was just fun. And so as much as I enjoyed the music, it was those communal times that I look back. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, it's like today, it's that social interaction. It was just remarkable. And then for many years I moved on, and then they had this resurgence with John Mayer, who's just this amazing guitarist, and it's kind of relived. And and I've gone to a number of their Dead and Company shows. But again, I do love the music genuinely, but it's those memories that bring back, like those memories with my brother and I, going and driving for 8 hours to New York City to go see, it's those things. So it's really, it's equal parts music and equal parts, nostalgia and social interactions. And that's just a magical thing happening.
Dan, it's one of my closest childhood friend who I'm still very close with. After he graduated college, he and two buddies bought a $600 or $800 just junker of a van and spent summer after college traveling throughout the continental United States following the Dead. I don't know how many shows they saw, but I know they were gone for almost 3 months. And he's still, 30 years later, still talking about some of those experiences.
And one of the funny things, I'm at the dinner table, and I think so much of us are eating dinners as families over the last, and that's been one of the most wonderful, for the most part, one of the most wonderful things that have happened out of this pandemic. And I was in San Francisco and I made friends with the head office of the Grateful Dead at the time. And they got me, Jerry Garcia signed a ticket for me. Now, I never met Jerry Garcia, and my wife, we have no idea where it is. So, and to this day, once in a while, I say, like, please, Julie, I'm begging, please, I don't care about it, find that ticket, and we're all laughing. But I really want to find that ticket, because that needs to be in a frame on the wall somewhere. So,
guys, I'm talking with Toronto-based attorney Dan Joffe. We're talking about his entrepreneurial endeavors, his law firm, his love for the Dead. And we're getting close to the end of our conversation, Dan. I've enjoyed our time, but I don't want to get out of here. Thank you. I don't want to get out of here without talking about, what's going on in the world for a few minutes. And I know that Toronto and the country of Canada has done such a great job in comparison to the United States and many other parts of the world about containing the coronavirus. And I guess my first comment or question to you would be, you mentioned a second ago about family dinners and getting together. And I've started asking in some of my interviews is, we know all about the bad parts and the sacrifices and the things. And I know we both have children going back to school now at their universities. But I want to hear about some of the good things, the memories, the positive things that are coming out of this for you and your family, that had we not been in this pandemic, maybe these memories would never have been created.
Yeah, it's a great point. And certainly the family dinner, so many of my friends we talk about, that I talk to, just that family connection time that we have. And also to place things in perspective, when I hear, once in a while our kids will be down, and rightfully so, not able to hear from their friends or not able to get together these big parties. I said, look, everything's relative. I mean, my parents, my dad, may rest in peace, my mom, they went through the war. My dad worked in a labor camp in Siberia when he was 14 years old for 4 years. I mean, those are tough times, right? So everything has perspective. And what we're starting to do, we mentioned this before we got on today, one of the great joys that I have living in Toronto. Toronto's Ontario's largest province in Canada, 15 million people. And Toronto is one of the most incredible cities in the world, except for the winter. But what makes Toronto so incredible is we have this incredibly culturally diverse city. So you go down to Little Italy, Greek town, there's an area, Jamaica town, you go to, it is the most incredible food and culture from around the world is in Toronto. And it's amazing. And before the pandemic, I would almost probably once a week would go with my kids and we would go check out a different ethnic restaurant.
Oh, wow.
And there would not be like fake ethnicity, these are immigrants who came to Canada. Canada welcomed them in a wonderful way, and really amazing food and ingredients. And a lot of times we talk to the owners about, hey, where'd you come from? How'd you get to Canada? My kids and I would do that because my parents were immigrants to Canada, and thank God they came here, and this country welcomed us. And I want my kids to see that is the way to run, to have a country. So now the pandemic, unfortunately, is shutting a lot of these things down. But but since things have reopened relatively here in Ontario, we have been going back to some of those places. They're on the patio now, and some limited in-house, but we're trying, we just went to Greektown the other night, and it was the volume of people was down, but it really felt, for a few minutes, for a few hours, like we weren't even in a pandemic. Yes, the waiters were coming to us with masks, but there was just people's shoulders were down a little bit. And we're starting to see that a little more here, which is great. This weekend, again, I'm going to go with my kids to a different area of the city to explore yet what life looks like in the pandemic in these different ethnic communities, which have some of the most amazing food. So, and I love it. And those are really amazing bonding times with my kids. And I love it. We have so many of those memories. My kids, now that they're older, they're into these amazing beers, and there's all these amazing breweries around town. So those are, we bond so much over food, and I've gained a ton of weight in this pandemic, but those moments are wonderful. And I really, and we're extending those, which is a great thing. So.
Well, Dan, I don't know if Canada is allowing Americans into the country just yet, but when and if that comes to fruition, sign me up to become an honorary Joffe family member, and I'm all in for wherever we go next. Because that's,
don't dare ask me, because I'll make you follow up on it. And it is my pleasure bringing and I would love to show you or anyone else around it. It's an awesome thing. I'm really proud of it and proud of what we've done in this country. It's great.
Very, very good. Well, Dan, I appreciate your time today and sharing your story and about your businesses and about the Grateful Dead and all that good stuff. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Bernard. You're a good dude, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And guys, as always, we try to come to you every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central with interesting conversations with people in their areas of expertise. And Dan Joffe out of Toronto certainly fits that bill. So thank you. And guys, as I try to sign off on all of these recent episodes, is we're going to get through this, but we got to use common sense. And even if you don't like wearing your mask for yourself, do it for your fellow mankind. It'll help us all. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll catch you next Tuesday. Be well.